observe the polls upon arrival. The remaining 7% of observers were later permitted to observe the elections. Set up for polls. According to CODEO's observers, the majority of polling stations had a representation of women among the EC officials. 14% had 5 women officials, 63% had 2 or 3 women, and 17% had just 1 woman. However, 6% of polling stations, CODEO observers reported no women among the EC officials. According to CODEO observers, presiding officers in 86% of polling stations are men. The remaining 14% of polling stations had women as presiding officers. CODEO observers reported that 98% of polling stations were set up to allow voters to mark their ballots in secret. However, the setup did not ensure vote secrecy in 2% of polling stations. They also reported that 6% of all polling stations were not accessible to persons with disabilities and older people. Ladies and gentlemen, at the time of setup, CODEO observers reported seeing polling agents of the 2 main political parties in polling stations also had agents of independent candidates, that's 32%, and other parties, 32%. CODEO observers' reports showed that all polling stations had a ballot box, ballot papers, indelible ink, validating stamp, endorsing ink, and ink pad, while 99% had a voting screen and 82% had tactile ballot papers. However, in certain locations, materials arrived late, delaying the opening of the polling stations. According to CODEO observers, 74% of polling stations had the expected number of biometric devices, that is 2, and 26% had only 1 device. Our observers note that voter registers were made available at all polling stations. In almost all the polling stations, that's 99%, CODEO observers reported that ballot booklets had serial numbers in numeric order. Before voting started, CODEO observers could confirm that all the presidential and parliamentary ballot boxes were empty, sealed, and in plain view. CODEO observers again report seeing roaming and station security personnel at 98% of polling stations. Only 2% of polling stations were reported to have no security personnel. CODEO observers' report again shows that security personnel were unarmed at 78% of the polling stations. However, 20% of the polling stations had armed security personnel. Reported incidents. CODEO observers have reported a number of incidents at some polling stations. Some of the confirmed incidents so far include intimidation or harassment, that's 14 incidents, violence, 13 incidents, violation of voting procedures, 18 incidents, vote buying bribery, 3 incidents, and various other incidents, that's 26 reported and confirmed. Some of the incidents reported so far include the following. At the CMB polling station in Pumpunasi, in Tano South, in the Afo region, the validating stamp for the parliamentary ballot paper was reported to be faulty, making it impossible to read when ballots were stamped. This halted the voting process for about 1 hour 40 minutes before voting resumed. At the DA Primary School, Tuani Kope in South Dong constituency in the Volta region, parliamentary ballot papers were not available during the setup. EC officials brought the ballots subsequently at 10:45 a.m., after which the polling station opened at 10:50 a.m. At Nkuzezi Primary School at Nabdam in the Upper East, party leaders from both the NPP and the NDC were telling voters in line who to vote for. This caused anger among the voters and led to some fighting. A police officer later arrived and calmed the situation. At the Brekuso Daycare Center, one in Ekwapim South in the Eastern region, a voter was seen videotaping his ballot paper after marking it. At the Nungwa polling station, one in the Greater Accra region, 2 verification machines did not function properly for 2 hours. Voters were asked to go and return. At 10:15 a.m., the manual verification process was used to commence voting. The ballot paper booklets at the Papsi School, Santa Maria II, Anya Sowutum, Greater Accra, contained an inconsistent number of ballots ranging from 98 to 101. In Lejokuku, in Greater Accra, electoral material, including result forms, was damaged due to rain as it was kept outside of the EC district office. Conclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, could you note some of the initial challenges that characterized the opening of polls at some polling stations, including the late opening of some polling stations due to the late delivery of certain sensitive material? Could you, however, acknowledges the EC's swift resolution of most of these challenges, which have enabled voting to take place in a normal fashion? Could you urge the general public to remain calm and exercise their right to vote if they have not already done so? God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make this a great and memorable day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend David. So our findings are coming from our 1,500 prior vote tabulation observers who have been deployed to a nationally representative sample of polling stations. So this is based on using our statistical principles. We're able to estimate, get a sense of the quality of the process so far. And I think all of you will agree that so far, generally things have gone well, and we hope that it continues through the end of the day. What we are saying is that we are encouraging citizens, if you have not cast your vote yet, to go out and exercise your franchise. I will now open the floor for any questions from stakeholders here. I think everybody is generally satisfied. Okay, all right. So thank you very much for coming. Codewo will release its close of day poll statement. We continue to monitor the process and to receive data from our observers. We presented the PBT statistics to you, but as you know, we have deployed 4,000 observers across the country, and they continue to send us data for the 4,000 polling stations, but also on incidents.
And so that was a live feed coming from the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, where the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers was providing an update with regard to their observation since the voting process started from 7 a.m. As you do know, or if you do not know, CODEO has about 4,000 non-partisan observers nationwide. So they've sampled some polling stations where they have their observers. And co-chair of CODEO, Reverend Fred Degbe, he is also he's a co-chair for the board advisory for CODEO. He mentioned the figure that they have deployed. And one of the observations they have made is that 20% of polling stations that their observers are currently monitoring have armed security personnel. I'm sure you'd wonder, what's the big deal? Well, it is crucial because before the polls, we did hear the police say that none of the polling stations or officials or officers who will be deployed to the polling stations will be armed. But CODEO tells us that 20% of the polling stations monitored have armed personnel. Also, they observed that 60% of the polling stations are inaccessible to persons living with disability. This issue keeps coming up time and time again, and before the elections we speak to persons living with disability. They raise the issue of accessibility. Some of them even talk about the issues of danger. In instances where chaos breaks out, some of these persons living with disability will not be able to make their way out on time like the able-bodied individuals would do. And so these are some of the observations that CODEO is making reference to in relation to the latest in connection to their findings as they observe the exercise from 7 a.m. is some 44 minutes past the hour 1, meaning that we have some 16 minutes to the top of the hour 2. So 16 minutes more to the top of the hour 2, and this is what CODEO has observed so far, coming from these 4,000 observers that they have deployed across the country.
Yes, CODEO's observations are always apt and they are always helpful. The fact that they even do tabulation or collation of the result is apt. What they don't do, however, is to make their results known before that of the EC. So they wait days after the EC announces the official results. They will then make their own public. And it's
that's
mostly
because they do the parallel voter tabulation.
Exactly.
And just to be
sure. And then assure everybody else that EC is not just churning out some cooked figures. But Benjamin Banabu, before we went to CODEO, we had gone to the EC headquarters. Some interesting statistics coming from the EC headquarters by way of voter turnout. So over 30% of centers have recorded 60% turnout as at 12 p.m. Over 30% of centers, just a little over 30% of centers have recorded 60% turnout as at 12 p.m. And then about 10% also have recorded between 30 to 40% as at 1 p.m. And that's discouraging. That's not encouraging at all.
Let's quickly go to the Swami constituency. Let's see if turnout there is better with regard to the numbers coming in from CODEO. Isaac Bediako Justice is in Swami. Isaac? Can you hear me? Well, he doesn't seem to hear me, but we'll try and reconnect with Isaac Bediako Justice, who is our Ashanti regional correspondent. He's been moving to the various constituencies. Earlier we spoke to him, he was in Asawase. Now he's in the Swami constituency. So I will touch base with him to bring us some more in connection to that, the developments coming from there. Well, we're talking about the numbers. Okay, Isaac is ready. Let's go back to the Swami constituency. Isaac, can you hear me? Isaac, what can you tell you where you are? What can you tell us where you are?
Well, I must say that in Swami constituency where we are at the moment, voting is still ongoing, but at this particular polling station, what they tell me is that they have not recorded up to 80%. Only about half of the people that are expected to vote here have reported to this center to vote. The women are still doing door-to-door calling, going from house to house, calling the people that it is time they should come and vote. So that has been the situation in Bremai community, according to the political party agents that I saw here. What they are telling me is that the people are not coming, so they have decided to go and call them from their various homes so that they come and vote. So let me speak to this electoral officer here and find out the number that they have recorded so far. Chief, good afternoon. You're live on GH1. What is the situation now here at Bremai?
Yeah, I would say it's normal. It's very, very normal. So far, we have about 206 who has cast their vote, and we are still waiting. We expected about 452 voters. So we are still waiting. It's not yet time, so we are hoping they will come.
If you compare this year's turnout to last year, what has changed?
Nothing really. It seems it's a little bit slow this year as comparatively to last 4 years. You see, people were coming faster than this year. This year, since everything is slow, and how the EC has divided the thing is very easy for us. We are just taking care of about 750 people, which it shouldn't be more than that. So everything is, we are holding everything. It's okay.
In other areas where people have issue with the BVDs, in this center, have you recorded an issue?
Yeah, we just have just one issue here, but we're able to deal with the facial this thing. When you go through the normal proceeding, it's not working. You just try another, which is the facial. So we just snap it, and we are able to capture the person. So far, it's about just 2 occasions that we are having some difficulties by.
But generally everything is
yes, generally everything. As for our polling station today, everything is okay.
Thank you very much. So for here at Bremai, they do not have too much issue with the process, just that they think that it is a bit slow. Now let me engage these women. They have been going from house to house, encouraging the people to come and vote so that they can achieve the turnout that they are looking for. Mame, Mema, I had a budget GH1.
Yeah.
Now, what about 2 years?
My 2 years dad.
Now, okay, omo ye every friend for say omo mra meto no.
Pacha, meka wo mu pacha.
Na mokwa den na mokachire omo na den nti na mote si fie say mokọ friend for say omo mra meto aba.
The nti ami atu esi fie friend for say meto aba ni say. Ya hu se mo na awofi omunya meto yi. Eni nti na ami atu enwu eguma. Ye friend mu so omunya meto aba. Okọ ebisi we esi ne na meba. Obi si mi bo mitime ba ebi so e botra me ba beto ebi so e bo fa na beto nti ejeje no muso so de be ya omunya betimi aba no ma ba beto aba nti na ewere fi
ba bi a me call ye ebi kire se so omko fie so omko friend crofo se omamra metro aba na omo aka chom so omo fam firi omo so nko ade be na nti na omo na e wose kire omo se omo nko to aba momo ko e no omo de abufuo hia mo
obi a mfa abufuo hia kwa omani omuji efeso ama omani ji eno mu ye ne kasa me hu se obi a buafu e kasa ase
Bremai ha muji di se ba bi adu mo betimi a record be ye 80%.
Ebenya fi se first nyaminti e ho fi se first na eye enoso ntini ye tunu bebe se ya chichechim nti de wa ye si tunu de ye beje ye wa rehye mu se bibia be koso kama de mai.
So Nanama, sorry, what the woman told me is that yes, they have been going from house to house because they have realized that the voting is going on in a slow pace. So they are trying to encourage the people to come out in their numbers and come and vote. So exactly that is what they are doing here at the Swami constituency, Bremai constituency, to be specific. Now let me try and see if I can speak to Okatachie Donko Fojuo, former national chairman of the New Patriotic Party under former President John Agyekum Kufuor. This is the man who retired from the position of the national chairman simply because he was uncomfortable working with J.A. Kufuor. And the man is here to vote. And so we'll try and see if we can speak to Okatachie Donkofojo, one of the veterans of the New Patriotic Party who have seen it all in party politics. Very, very veteran. We'll try and speak to him. He's here going through the process with the wife. They are doing her biometric verification, everything. When they are done, then Okatachi will then be given the opportunity to go and sit in his car, then he go back. So we'll speak to him before he goes. So as you can see him, this is Okatachi Donko Fojuo, former national chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Eja, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Have you gone through the process?
Yes, but it doesn't work.
It didn't work?
No.
Why?
Ask them.
Officers, Okatachi is here to go through the process. He just told us that it didn't work. What is the issue?
The machine couldn't match with the finger.
Okay.
So we asked him to wait for a little bit. Maybe he will try later on. He couldn't pick the fingerprint. And we want to try the facial, but the facial is still the same problem.
But his picture is in the album.
Picture in the album, but the machine has to take this thing.
The fingerprint.
Yeah, before it adds to the number already voted.
So Okatachi is very known here.
Yeah.
His name is in the album, but the fingerprint is not picking. Facial is also not picking. But this is a man that everybody knows him here. So what is next? If all these options fail?
The only thing, we can go to manual verification, but the machine has to direct us to take the manual verification. And no response from the machine. So we couldn't process, or we couldn't continue on the process.
So now he has to wait for some time before.
Then we try we try again. If it will match, then we continue the process.
Okatachi, with the experience you have had this afternoon, are you disappointed?
No, I'm not disappointed. I used to be a minister in Ghana 10 years ago, so I don't mind.
You have seen it all. What advice do you have for Ghanaians? I mean, some people have not seen you for a while. Today you are here. What do you want to tell Ghanaians so far as this election is concerned?
This is the election that NPP must win. Must win. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. Okatachi Donkofojo, the former national chairman of the New Patriotic Party, who is in his retirement now, voting here at Bremen and telling us what he has seen so far and telling Ghanaians to come out and vote. Yeah, so we are still here at Bremen. The officials are doing their best, trying to go through the process and see if Kantinka Donkofojo will be able to vote. So now they are trying to do the manual verification. I don't know, how about the wife?
The same thing, the same process, the same thing.
The wife too cannot vote?
Yeah.
What is the problem with her? What is wrong with her, sorry?
We don't know. Only this problem is only of the two of them.
The two of them?
Yeah.
The only people you
Only people, and we don't understand. The whole month, and we are having this serious problem. Is very serious.
It's very serious.
Very, very serious.
Is it because of their age?
I don't know. Maybe you want to try the facial, and I don't know if the face is differ from what
Maybe they have changed.
They have changed.
Mommy, so they are trying to do the fingerprints and see if the wife would be able to vote. They are still going through the process. Still, it's not picking. Mommy, what do you say to the experience? Disappointed?
Very. Maybe they don't want us to vote. But we are voting. We will vote.
Definitely we will vote. You will vote because there are other options available.
Yes, so they should give us the option.
Which is the manual
or whatever it is.
As our mother, your daughter's sons are voting today. What message do you have for the nation so far as peace is concerned?
Vote from your heart and vote for Ghana, for peace to survive.
Thank you very much. So, team in Accra, this is the situation that we have witnessed here at Bremai, where Kentinka Donko Fojo and the wife came to vote here, but all the process that they try to use, which one has to do with the fingerprints, it did not work. The biometric verification they have done for the two, it didn't work. According to the electoral official, these are the only two people that they have had issue with them. And so they are still trying. Now they have brought in washing powder, water, trying to wash their hands to see if the next fingerprint will pick. So that is what they are doing. So now Kantinka Donkofodio has to go through finger washing. So now he's washing his hands to see if they put his hand on the verification machine, it will pick. So the process is still ongoing here at Bremai police station. That's what we are observing now. So they are going to start another process for us to see if he will be able to vote. If this fails, then they have no option than to consider the manual verification process before the former national chairman of the New Patriotic Party under former President John Ajay Kufuor will be able to vote here at Bremai.
So that is Isaac Bediako Justice bringing us the updates from Bremen in the Swami constituency. And it's interesting, he's been interacting with the former chairman of the NPP in the region. And he and his wife, they are eager to vote. Unfortunately, the biometric system is not able to pick their information, but then there are other options like the manual option as well. But they are trying all they can to be sure that they've been able to exhaust the means through which they can be verified through the biometric system at the moment. And it's interesting that they are all very eager to vote, and we are hoping that this will be addressed in the shortest possible time so they can go home to rest as well. And he was asked about whether he wanted the NPP to win. He says, yes, of course. They must win in relation to the votes ongoing at the moment. We'll be going to my colleague Musa Lansa, who is in Zebila in the Upper East region to find out what the situation is on the ground. But another thing that we'll be exploring as we proceed is the issue in relation to the numbers, the turnout. The Electoral Commission, when it addressed the press, they said that they are impressed with the turnout so far. Let's go to the Upper East region. Musa Lansa is there for us.
At a polling station called Abodabogo Pansako polling station, where we understand there are 665 voters on the electoral roll. And this is surprising as we were coming in from the Bolga East constituency. The queues in those in the constituency of the Bolga East polling stations were not so huge, but here at the Pansako polling station in the Apodabogo electoral area of the Zebila constituency, the numbers here are huge. Several people coming out to be a part of the voting exercise. We'll try to engage the presiding officer here to understand what the issues are. He's currently a bit busy with trying to help people locate their names on the register. But we'll try and then get a word with the presiding officer. Presiding officer, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, this is the Palsaka, Apodago Palsako voting center. How many people are on this roll, and what time did you start, and have you had any challenges since you started?
Well, fortunately, we don't have any challenge now, but the number, and For now, we don't have, and we started 7 o'clock. Yes, AM. Yes, and for now, we don't have any challenge.
So those are scenes from the Upper East region, the Zebila area. You had as engaged Musa Lansai, who is my colleague here, and the numbers are very impressive in that particular polling station. I'm comparing it to some of the polling stations here in the capital, and they are not so encouraging. Well, some say that they have voted and they're done with the process and they're gone. But we're talking about the turnout, the numbers. The EC in their press briefing a while ago did say that they are happy with how things are going so far, and turnout is over 60% from when voting started at 7 a.m. Codeo has referenced a similar figure as well with regard to the numbers. Bediako did tell us about the numbers in the Ashanti region where people are going door to door to tell people to come out and cast their ballots. Same, we're told, is happening in Medina. And that sends a certain signal as to whether people are waiting to do it the last minute, or people are just in that situation where they feel that, I think I am done. Whatever I do, nothing really changes.
Well, if the picture painted by the young woman who had volunteered to move from house to house to encourage voters to come out and vote is anything to go by, she mentions that she's been given the assurance that others are engaged in some other activities, and that the assurance is that later they will come and cast their ballot. Sometimes they just tell you that to get you off their back. But if indeed that's the assurance, then we expect the numbers to increase. Like Bediako related to. Some people will not be that diplomatic with you. They tell you it's not to your responsibility to alert me to what I ought to do, right? And that's to tell you that such people do not intend showing up at the polling station to vote. Nonetheless, the EC pegged the figure as of midday around 60% in 30% of the voting centers. They describe that as encouraging. I disagree. Our only hope and prayer is that the mobilization will work. So, for instance, in Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu, the incumbent MP, is moving from one house to the other and encouraging potential voters
to go out
to turn
there and
up
cast their ballots.
And like we said, a similar thing is happening. We will very soon engage Prince Essien, who is painting another gloomy picture in the Francois Erebi enclave, that the turnout is abysmal, and the parliamentary candidate of the NPP are lamenting over that. And it's a story he's forward through that we subsequently engage him. And so, yes, it's not 5 p.m. yet, but this is a wake-up call to the politicians and then their agents to engage in mobilization. The EC, at this point in time, cannot go to anybody's house and ask the person to come and vote. Their responsibility was to create the awareness before the D-Day. Now that the D-Day is here, it's not the responsibility of the EC to go to house and mobilize people to come out and vote. The politicians should do that.
Now let's go to Lukman Mohammed in Techiman to find out what the situation is there as well. We just a while ago did return from the Zebila area. Let's go to Techiman to find out what the situation is in the area. Lukman, what do you have for us? Lukman, can you hear me?
Techiman is very cool. Just that we recorded. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So tell us what is happening in your area.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Techiman is very cool. Techiman is very cool. There is no incident here. Just that a moment ago we picked up indication that one polling station officer has been arrested at Techiman, Kintampo South. The name is Joseph Terry, and the reason he was picked up.
Well, we would have to go back to Techiman and speak to Lukman again, but we are bringing you our continuous coverage of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections underway, going on across the country. Voting started in most areas at 7 a.m. and expected to close at 5 p.m. However, pockets of incidents in some constituencies have been recorded, where, for instance, in the Wejagbawe constituency, about 16 polling stations they didn't have pink sheets for the parliamentary polls. Also, in some other areas, there was a mix-up in relation to the polling stations and their corresponding pink sheets. At a certain point, we're told that the NPP parliamentary candidate for the area, Jerry Ahmed Shaibu, stormed one of the polling stations asking that the process be halted, but eventually the police resolved that. And in Trobu, for instance, we understand that flooding has also impeded voting as well. In the central region, some people were defying the rains. Let's go back to Techiman and speak to Lukman. Lukman. Lukman, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, all right. What is happening where you are? You were talking about how the process has been smooth so far, but in exception of another issue. Well, unfortunately, we don't have Lukman on. We'll try again to raise him on the telephone line. But I was talking about some of the incidents we have recorded, where Trobu, for instance, there was flooding, and then in the central region as well, some part of it is raining, but people are defying the rains to go out there and cast their ballot. We were in the Ashanti region, specifically in the Breman area, where we spoke to Isaac Bediako Justice, Ashanti regional correspondent, and it tells us about how the numbers. Remember that when it comes to politics, it's always a numbers game. Therefore, people have to show up, and people are even volunteering to go to houses door to door, urging people to show up in their numbers to make that crucial decision with regard to who will serve you as a member of parliament for the next 4 years and who will be president for the next 4 years. And like I did say, we'll be looking at this issue about low turnout and the implications as well. But this is our continuous coverage of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary primaries here in Ghana. Ibrahim.
Well, yes, of course, you're related to the turnout and how parliament will be like. This election is not just about who becomes the president.
Yes.
This election is also about who controls parliament. And given all that has happened in parliament, I dare say that attention is much more on parliament than even the presidential, right?
Yes.
But of course, if you give the political parties the option, they would rather take the presidential than parliamentary. And so the number is quite interesting. In fact, the MPP and NDC are headed into today's exercise. In fact, they are in the exercise already. What equals rent? 137. And with Fomina now returning to the MPP by way of positioning, because the independent MP has decided to now return home and then contest on the ticket of the MPP. You can see that from today we have MPP 138 and then NDC 137.
Yes.
Nonetheless, there was one extra seat that has been created. And if you look at the demography and the location of that seat, you can confidently say that it might have been a gift to the NDC for the trouble that the Sal people went through.
Yeah.
That is the default thinking until anything contrary happens. And I'm talking about the fact that the only seat that the MPP occupies in the Volta region is the Hohoi seat.
That the MPP occupies in the Volta region?
In the Volta region is the Hohoi seat. When you go to OT, MPP has no seat in the OT region. The new constituency that has been created is in the OT region. So the default thinking is that
it will go to the NDC as well. All right, let's go over to the Trobu area. My colleague Eli Klimawuku is there. Trobu is where I've been talking about for some time now, where there was flooding at one of the areas. Let's speak to Eli. Eli, what can you tell us in relation to this? How did this impede voting?
So now, at about 11:30, when I first stepped at the Anglican primary in Ofankobaria in the Trobu constituency, people had shown up to vote, but then turnout wasn't so great. So I figured that it could either be people were bidding their time, or because the queue was moving fast. Fast forward an hour later, I returned, and then the whole place is flooded, and people are hanging on walls, and then the EC officials are under the veranda along with the voting supplies, really. So people who were waiting to queue had to now squeeze in with electoral officials as they tried to cast their ballot. I attempted going closer, but then I slipped twice and almost fell because of how muddy it was. So I couldn't go in further than what we see in our shots now.
And so this has significantly impeded the pace of people showing up to vote, correct?
Exactly, it has. But as I speak to you now, the sun is out again and it's bright and hard and it's beating us down. But the moments ago, this wasn't so. You wouldn't believe that within an hour, this dramatic change took place in Chobo, especially at the Anglican primary. But I did visit other polling stations who are not so far away from this particular polling station. But the difference is that with these places, there were pebbles on the ground, and then it seemed like it was a wider space. So then the electoral officials moved the people waiting to queue along with the voting supplies onto the veranda, but there was enough room for them, unlike what we are seeing in Ashot, where the veranda is much more narrower, and that even with the electoral officials, they were hovering around each other just to make room for the few that had shown up to cast their ballots.
All right, Eli, thank you very much. Likmima Wuku reporting live from the Trobu area where flooding impeded voting in one of the polling stations. But as of now, the waters have receded and it's made the place more accessible, even though a few people are slipping here and there. And thank God, Eli, you didn't fall down, all right? It's good. It's good to have you in good shape. And so, yes, for those of you who maybe were discouraged by the rains, kindly go out there and cast your ballots. It's very important that you're part of this decision. Ibrahim, at this point, we are adding to the appeals for people to show up to vote.
Most definitely. The dramatic and then, of course, a miraculous turn of event.
Absolutely, where it rains.
A tale of heaven and hell, so to speak.
Or night and day.
Okay,
I think it's a better example.
so one moment, the place is soggy and it's raining. And what we saw, obviously, was going to make it difficult for people to access the voting centers. And then just in about an hour later, the place is dry, the sun is up, and I think God just wanted the exercise to go on smoothly. And so, yes, thanks, Early, for the report there, and we are glad that you didn't fall. All right, yes, but it tells you the resilience of the Ghanaian voter.
Absolutely.
To show up.
And the Ghanaian journalists as well.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. And also as well, we'll be going to other areas where there are some developments to bring you the information that you need in relation to it. And I also did say that we'll be looking at the numbers game, the implications it will have on the election, especially when there are concerning issues with regard to people showing up to vote. We have been across the country. We just came from the Trobu area. Would also have to go to the central region at a certain point as well, where people defied the rains to show up to cast their ballots as well. So wherever you are, if you haven't cast your ballot, please go out there and get that done. It will also be important to get some update from the Electoral Commission in relation to the situation in the Wejagbawe constituency. We will be going to the central region and speak to Tutuwa Danso to give us some updates in relation to the people defying the rains to cast their ballots. Tutuwa, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
What is happening where you are?
Well, as he's rightly informed our viewers, about an hour ago, there were rainfalls here that, funny enough, didn't hamper the process. I mean, people were still in the queues voting, and this is the Anglican basic school here. But earlier I had visited other polling stations where it was also raining, but people were still really lined up in the queues, and this is indicative of what the constituents in this region told me prior to my engagement with them yesterday. They told me that they were tired of voting in a certain direction, which hasn't yielded them the needed results. And so, whether rain or shine, they were going to come out in the mist and then vote. And this is actually my third constituent. I visited constituency. I have done, this is currently the Infantiman constituency. I've also done the Abra Sebu Kwamankese. And just to let our viewers know that two of the constituencies I mentioned earlier, that is the Cape Coast North and the Abra Sebu Kwamankese constituency, are two out of the nine hotspots identified here in the central region. And generally, the impression has been that voter turnout has been pretty low. When I visited Mori in the Abra Sebu Kwamankese constituency, for instance, I was informed that because it is a fishing area, so people wouldn't come out to vote in their numbers in the early hours of the day. But hopefully between now and then 5 p.m., they would have showed up. But largely in the central region, it's been very peaceful. And also one thing I want to put across that happened in the central region was with people appearing at the polling stations drunk. And so it won't be surprised when the results are coming out and then we learn that some of the ballots will be rejected, because I saw with my own eyes one gentleman completely intoxicated with alcohol put a stamp on the face of the candidate that he wanted to vote for instead of the blank slate that have been provided. And so that is some of the development that have happened in the central region so far. My next stop will be the Cape Coast South constituency, and then finally I'll do Komenda, Edinafo, Egwe, and then Ebrim. But largely it's been very peaceful here in the central region. Voter turnout has been pretty low, citing various, owing to various, incidents. But I also spoke to the NDC's parliamentary candidate for the Infantiman constituency, and he told me that the low voter turnout will be to his advantage because he believes that people that are not here are members of the New Patriotic Party, and then the NDC is taking over. So those who are voting are members of the National Democratic Congress. But we'll still be monitoring developments here in the central region. But largely, it's been a peaceful election, and I've done 3 out of the 23 constituencies, as I said earlier, and I'll be keeping tabs on what will be happening here in the region. But the rain was falling, but now the sun is really out. It's shining, and things are back to normal now.
So that you sip some water and slow down for me. At this point in time, I probably would name you Vanessa Sarkodie. Thank you so much for that report coming from the central region, where people were defying the rains to show up. But she also talks about the issue of low voter turnout, and I'm wondering what it would take for people to show up in their numbers, and what exactly could be the concern.
Well, so voting is a civic responsibility,
absolutely,
right? But it's equally not mandatory.
Yes, it's not compulsory.
It's not
you
compulsory.
Cannot force people to.
Elsewhere, it is, and it's punishable if you refuse to vote. Here, we've made it optional, even though it's your civic responsibility as a patriotic citizen. But then, decision not to vote sometimes is equally a protest. You know that, right?
Yes.
And so it's early days yet. I will still insist that it's early days. But after it's all said and done, if the trend we are witnessing is anything to go by, then we can scrutinize the figures and understand as to whether indeed people staying away from the polling centers is a sign of a protest, or indeed there were other reasons why they just refused to partake in this election. And mind you, if you follow reports that have been done, there are many people, especially the youth, who think that the country is not seeing the dividends of democracy, and they become much more apathetic towards anything democratic process.
Yeah.
You saw the Afrobarometer report that came out that unfortunately got some youth on the continent thinking that we are better off under a military rule than the democracy that we are experimenting.
Yeah, it showed that people were becoming less and less intolerant of military rule.
Exactly, and that's the danger. And so these are all the nuances that must be factored into consideration in a holistic analysis of what we witnessed. But like I said, it's early days yet. We can still call on the voters to go out there and exercise their franchise.
Fantastic. And let's take you to the Tolong area, where there has been tension after a vehicle belonging to the NPP monitoring team was vandalized by some alleged youth of the NDC in Nyankbala. Now, the side mirror and windscreen was destroyed by the alleged NDC men at Nyankbala DA polling center. this is said to have been done by some NDC youth in the area, and the car in question, we understand, belongs to the NPP in the area. And so we'll be speaking to the reporter in relation to that. And there are reports that there are fears that one person has died in connection with this particular incident. And we'll be bringing you the details in relation to that. It's coming to you from the Tolon area, where a vehicle belonging to the NPP has been vandalized by suspected use of the NDC. This is our continuous coverage of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections here in Ghana. Noah Nash is our Northern Regional correspondent. He's joined us over the telephone. He joined us now. Noah, what more can you tell us about this troubling development where we understand that one person is feared dead?
Okay, so one person is actually dead. One is also severely injured in the process of the attack. This whole issue ensued as a result of the fact that since morning, there has been a vehicle that has been positioned in one of the communities when you're getting close to the abattoir, where it's conveying people into the Tolon district for them to enable them to actually cast their votes. So in the process, I think the youth in Nyankwala who actually saw the process, because the number of vehicles that were coming in were more than enough, and so they felt that they were being infiltrated into the community. So they actually attacked. In the process, they ended up attacking the other vehicles that were used by the regional secretary of the MPP, who happens to be a CCOP, and his team. So that was what led to that whole damage that you saw of the vehicle. There has been a double military presence and a double police presence here. Every vehicle that is coming in and exiting out is either checked or verified before you exit out. No vehicle is allowed to actually carry any passenger beyond the required number. So buses that were actually bringing in some of the protests were actually sent back by the military. The military asked that they should return because the youth actually went closer to attack it again. And so that is what led to another uprising again. And for a fact, the police are actually cordoned off where the young man who was shot. The CID unit is actually taking care of that incident. If the cameras can zoom in, you will see that it's quite a bit far, but you can see that there's a heavy military presence, heavy police presence here, just to make sure that nothing goes bad again. Because the youth in Tolon, apparently, when the incident happened to be in Tolon, so I actually tried interviewing the COP, Rashid, who was actually the victim. They actually attacked me and said, look, we journalists caused the whole thing. So I was heckled and then I was rescued by Rashid COP, his own boys. They quickly took me out of the place and then actually smuggled me to the MP's radio station. So it's been good. I mean, I would say that the police presence and the military presence has been so far good.
Thank you very much, Noah Nash. And very troubling developments coming there from Tolon, where one person, we understand, is feared dead after a vehicle said to belong to an official of the NPP in the area was vandalized by some supposed NDC youth. And as a result, one person is feared dead and another is also said to be critically injured. Very worrying development coming there from the Tolon area. And it was the hope and expectation of many that we will not have electoral-related deaths going into this election because of what happened in 2020. Still fresh on our minds, and the argument consistently being that nobody needs to lose their lives just because they want to go out there and cast their ballots. And Ibrahim, I think it would also be good to introduce security analyst Dr. Adam Bonar, also here at this point. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think you're joining us at a very good time because we're having this conversation. But before I hear from you, Ibrahim, quickly, your thoughts on this?
Well, that's exactly what we've been saying, that it was too early to start jubilating, that it's been largely peaceful.
Exactly.
Given the fact that just 4 years ago, 2020, 8 people lost their life. And it doesn't seem like we've done much to address that. And so it didn't come to me as a surprise that we are recording what we are recording in Tolon. Let's just hope that this doesn't get out of hands. But of course, the right person to engage with in this conversation is Dr. Adam Bona.
Dr. Adam Bona, good afternoon once again, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Adede. I haven't been here for a while.
Yes, we have been speaking to you over the telephone.
When you see the bush rats out in the open in the afternoon, either there is some pepper spray or there is some smoke, so I didn't have a choice.
But have you cast your ballot already?
Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
This morning I had to be on a sister station.
Okay.
So from there I quickly went. It's very important.
Yes. That everybody does.
This is, I call it the Trump riots. We are rioting with our Trump. I call it the Trump riots.
Yes, it's one of the most peaceful riots you can find.
The most peaceful, the Trump riots, yes.
And so let's talk about the situation in Tolon. Very, very troubling that one person is feared dead as a result of this attack on this vehicle.
Well, yes. Good afternoon to your viewers. I picked information on that. I'm told, is it the PC and some guys were there, one Rashid something, where I think they were sharing something. And obviously, you know the resistance when it comes to even sharing. You know what happened is Ablekuma also.
That is
this morning.
Is it Ablekuma Ayawaso?
Yes, someone had loaded some food and they chased the person away. So obviously, Ghanaians are beginning to be assertive when it comes to giving goodies to entice people. So I think in the course of the sharing, there was resistance by the youth around. And so I think some people around, I don't know whether it's an incumbent or somebody like that, went into a vehicle, brought out firearms, and fired into the young people who were resisting. I mean, my sources also indicate it is more than one person who has died. You know, so you have more than one person would have died, you know, on this side, and maybe one also injured critically on the other side, which is completely needless. Should have been avoided.
Absolutely.
Already, we have about 2.5 hours to go for the polls to close, and we are getting what do you call that? All these forms of violence, which is completely unnecessary.
Yes.
But you see, sometimes I'm tempted to believe some of our politicians are senseless.
Is it senseless, or you think that they are deliberately?
No, they are senseless, because if you have to be deliberately sensible. Do you get what I'm trying to say? To be sensible, you need to be deliberate about it. You get what I'm trying to say? But it looks like for them, anything goes.
As in, lives don't matter. As long as their goals are met, or their objectives are met, anything
they don't care.
Can happen.
They really don't care, because I've shared some images with Ibrahim coming from Obuasi. The commander there, has deployed the military, and they are in town. We are told they are not supposed to be in town, and they are there, and people are resisting them, and they are shooting at the civilians. And who will send them? Obviously not the CDS, who is in charge of, not him. So it will be someone who is probably so senseless to be used by the military. Sorry, to be used by the politician to do this. Because then any military officer who is trained properly trained, you will not allow yourself to be used by a politician.
Does it surprise you that, the National Election Security Task Force did assure that no military officers will be deployed to the grounds unless it is absolutely necessary, and then they are calling in for a backup? But then again, even the day before, we saw videos of military officers being deployed to various areas. Does it surprise you that despite this assurance, this is happening?
You see, along the line, I knew they were going to probably attempt something, but I didn't believe that they would be so reckless to this extent. Be so reckless, because then, yesterday thereabout, the military came up with a release saying that when we see military movement, it's because they have to put them in various locations so that if there is any trouble, they can go in and help, which makes a lot of strategic sense. But to have them drive on the University of Cape Coast, you see them move around locations. They are in Obuasi, they are there. What I would say, and I've said it openly, that you see, once the appointer allows the appointee to be sidelined, the president probably would have acquiesced, would have allowed some factions to sideline the CDS, because it is the prerogative of the president. He's the sole person who can appoint a CDS, isn't it? By per the law. And so if anybody undermines the CDS, then it is the president who has given that order for the CDS to be undermined. Because then you don't expect. I mean, how many of us knew, unless you were in the security fraternity, how many of us knew who a CDS was? How many of us knew who a chief of army staff was? You see, they would mind their own business in the various military facilities. They do their own things. You will never hear of them unless something happens. Maybe if you are old enough to remember, recently, I think General Nokwenu died. Buffalo soldier, when he said, I will take 1,000 army and I'll bring them back. That's another story. Whether he brought all the army back, I was old enough, so I will tell you that not all of them came back. So mine is that it is almost like testing the resolve of Ghanaians. If you play the images I sent to him from Obuasi, you will see Ghanaians, armless Ghanaians, resisting military with guns that we have bought for them. So if I am a military officer, this afternoon or today into tomorrow, I would ask myself questions. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
If it's worth it, then go ahead. Because then these images, people have filmed them. And once they film them and you know what you are doing, there is a warrant. When I say a warrant, there is an authority that don't step out. This thing is within the remit of the Ghana Police Service. The police have not told us we cannot do the job. So anybody who attempts to usurp the powers of internal security, you are perpetuating an illegality. And someone is superintending, someone is watching. So I've said it openly, the military is headless. No one seems to be in command and control. So you have various CEOs are misbehaving, commanding officers are misbehaving, sending boys around to do things, moving. Now you have, if you go to the Ashanti region, almost every pickup that is rentable is rented out to the military.
Because
they are using them illegally. You see, with the rented pickup, when you these days you can take the number plate and check who owns that vehicle, isn't it?
Yes.
So if we don't use military vehicle and we commit any mistake, isn't it? We commit crimes and you film it, it won't come directly to us. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So almost every rentable pickup, as we speak, in the Ashanti region and some locations in the country, has been rented to the military. That is how low the military has sunk.
Now, speaking about the security situation in general for the election, apart from the incident we are seeing in Tolon, the situation you've spoken about in Obuasi, what would you say is your general assessment of how the security situation has been handled for the election so far? It started at 7 a.m. for most centers and then is expected to end by 5 p.m.
I think the security situation largely has been very good. And I would say that it's been good because then the task force led by IGP Dampare started the engagement very early, engaging everybody, including yourself, CSOs.
Exactly.
I mean, they engaged the clergy, the chief, everybody was engaged in one way or the other, making sure that we know how the field is going to be before we get there. And so and that is what has given Ghanaians that sense of alertness, that you've got to be very alert, because then you've been told that this is how the football or the game of elections is going to be played. So I would say largely, if they didn't also do that, maybe we would have seen a lot more violence. Go to the, what do you call that, the trade fair area. Some hotels there, you have military people, put in there, and you are asking, look at how close those facilities, these hotels are around the trade fair area to Bema Camp. Keep them at Bema Camp. If you know they are going to perform legitimate duties, won't you leave them at Bema Camp? So that when they are coming from Bema Camp, we will know. put them in military vehicles, isn't it? But this time they are putting them in civilian branded vehicles with civilian registration numbers, and they are patrolling town. And well, I would say that maybe the pushback. I expect every military officer who is listening, if you know your left from your right, if you are sent on this, it's illegitimate until there is a signed something that says that, like the Tolon one, where probably I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm sure when I say I'm not aware if, I'm sure definitely the military would have been invited, I don't know. But you say that will make some security sense, that in a situation like that, you need more reinforcement. But where, they attempt to go to places and you can see people looking at them and hooting at them, and people are filming them and declaring them personas non grata, don't come closer. I mean, what the hell are they doing there? So for me, I said they should get out of the communities, go back to wherever you are supposed to be until you are invited. They should get out of their place because we employ them.
Does it have any effect in terms of people showing up to vote?
No, I think people have resolved to vote. In areas like the Eastern region, I'm hearing voter turnout is low. It will be because of apathy.
Yeah. In fact, that is one of the major concerns.
I'm hearing people in the Eastern region generally, I hear the voter turnout is low. Where I voted, I mean, the voter turnout is good, I'm told. And it took me, and let's pat the EC in the back. I don't want that we go beyond 5 o'clock and violence will start. I hope we don't get there. But EC so far...
From general observation, usually the confusion erupts close to when polls are closing and when counting begins.
I will use this medium to urge Ghanaians to be vigilant. Ghanaians, you can see the Obuasi images I shared. While they were shooting, Ghanaians were still there. You can see Ghanaians resisting military officers in the open. And this is in the night. It means that if you are not careful and you attempt anything funny during the day. If you attempt anything in the night, maybe you would have some persons who would also come at you with the same amount of force you are using, which is completely unnecessary. So I think the military, if they are listening to me, I know the military at the moment is in disarray, complete disarray. I think that those of them, you see, in times like this, when law and order breaks down in a security organization, you still would have few sensible ones amongst them who would call the others who might be messing up that, you know what, there will be a day for accountability. Stand down. At the end of the day, this is a democratic process. Why must I be voting to hire somebody and want to die for that person? But of course, I think that we've gotten to a point where Ghanaians are awake and are resisting. And so the military should know that they are not going to have an easy ride. If there was an easy ride some time ago, already people are dead. And this one, I would say, is not the cause of the military.
Absolutely.
Let's not blame it. I mean, you can't blame it that the military did it. This one is a politician, we are told, got there and they were doing some underhand dealings. And when there was resistance, they picked up their weapons and boom, boom, boom. I'm sure this will be investigated. But the military shouldn't get involved in intimidating and trying to do things that a proper military officer would not. Rawlings, when the time was due for him to go, eventually he stand down and said, see, no military involvement, cry. Yeah. So if you have a supposed human rights lawyer president, this shouldn't be happening. Under him, we had 8 people dying in 2020. Now, we've had at least confirmed 1, but I am saying that unconfirmed, intel suggests it's more than 1. Maybe more than even 2 or something, but we'll wait for the confirmation to come. Is it necessary? As we speak, 2-3 days ago or 4 days ago, some military officers died in Kumasi. Because the CEO, the CO for BN, Brigadier General Opoku, when the police went to their side to tell them, let's go on, a civil patrol, he said, no, you people should go away. Wow. And the police went away. Then when they hit town and they were going, I think people started hooting at them. And in their bid to get away fast, the military vehicle rolled over. A 23-year-old military lady died immediately. Another person died, I think, afterwards, and I think a third person is in critical condition. You see, this is not the time to. And young people will join the military for two reasons. Either they have the passion to join, or they need work.
They need work. And I'll let you hold a point here for me. I will definitely come back to you. I need to go to the telephone lines, and then I'll have to go to Zoom and speak to our reporter on the ground, Eric Mahama. We're going to the Odupong DA Primary 2 polling station, where there has been some form of confusion because a supporter of the NPP, or one of the agents of the NPP, was seen taking the names of voters. Eric, can you hear me? Okay, let's first bring you that footage and then we'll hear from our reporter.
That the lady sitting down there who is not having an agency tag, and it seems it's a member of the NPP taking people's, when they vote, he takes their names. And that one is not part of agency process. It's not in our process. So I just go to the police to put the attention, then they call the one in charge. And then when he comes, they call both of us to go and then deliberate on that particular issue. The lady was telling me that I am trying to bring him in trouble. I said, no. We all know what agent does. And the EC has presented us with a register. So you can't be here, take people's name when they vote. We don't do it that way. It's not the norm. So wait. I don't know. So he was telling me 4 years ago, that same lady let MPP hooligans come and beat me here. So today, he was telling me I should bring it on. He will also bring it to they say, okay, fine. If that's the agreement you saw doing. As for today, I am fully prepared. We are matching everybody boot to boot at that particular center. Okay.
So those were the scenes from the Odupong area. Let's go over to Zoom and speak to Eric Mahama for some more in relation to this. And some confusion breaking out there in the Odupong DA Primary 2 polling station because the agent was taking the telephone numbers of voters who showed up to cast their ballots. And the individual in question that we did watch on television did say that this is alien to the job of agents. But one thing you notice is that it's quite common in many of the polling stations. Sometimes you go to vote and then you'd notice that there are some agents there that will take your telephone number, and then in some instances you receive text messages from the parliamentary candidates. I have received text messages from the parliamentary candidates and the presidential candidates, and they keep coming from time to time. I think I got even 2 today, parliamentary and presidential, notifying me about today's exercise.
That usually happens during registration, voter registration. But the challenge is that the registrants are not told that those who are taking the numbers are actually party agents. Well, yeah. So you assume that it's the EC that's taken. So then when you start receiving these messages, then you begin to wonder, is it the EC that has given my information to the political parties? Yes. But mostly they take the numbers themselves. Aside the telco-sponsored messages that you get, where they go to the mobile network operators to send you direct messages or place a phone call to you. This time around, we didn't receive many offset, where there's a voice note of, say, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia or John Dramani Mahama addressing you directly as if it's a phone call. Yeah. Yes.
Let's go over the telephone line and speak to Eric Mahama in the Odupong area. Eric, so how was this situation resolved, this confusion in question? Eric, can you hear me? Eric?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So I'm asking, how was the confusion resolved?
Okay. So currently we are at the Odupong DA Primary School 2, the polling station 2, and at the back of the school there's a big park. We left not less than 15 minutes, and we had a gunshot.
Let's go to Delali and hear Bob. Delali, what is currently going on here? Okay, so I'm the constituency communication officer. As part of my monitoring, I had a distress call that indeed a guy named Mujahi, who happens to be one of the hard honorable ministers used in terrorizing the citizens of Kaswa, especially when it comes to electoral process, have shot one of the NDC members within the Odisante, what do you call it, DA Swami Su. I mean, in fact, the saddest bit of this whole thing is it actually happened at a full glare of heavy police presence. Shot an NDC person on to go. And before today, he was going around brandishing gun, boasting about the fact that he has a gun. And on the day of the election, he wouldn't care to pull the trigger to shoot an NDC member and true to his word. Just this afternoon, he aimed a gun at NDC member unprovoked and shot him. And like I said, at the full glare of the police who were armed, and nothing happened. Come and see, police all over. Police here are numbering more than 50. It happened in their presence, and nothing actually happened to the culprits. And he goes that way. And I want to say this. The IGP must elevate himself above empty rhetoric. Who is not aware of the fact that Kaswa is a flashpoint? Who is not even aware about the fact that consistently from 2012 to date, anytime there's an election, Kaswa Zongo has really become a subject of a discussion. And we are telling us, no NPP member.
Can you hear me?
So, if this is how we're going to go with respect to the election, if the police cannot defend us, we have no right to defend ourselves because the people are massing up. And let me tell the police officers here who look unconcerned when an innocent Ghanaian who has come to a police station to exercise his franchise was shot at, and the police were just onlookers. There are 48 hours. The leadership of this country will change. We see each and every one of them. We see each and every one of them. Because all the time, anytime there's an election in Kaswa, somebody must fall a victim. We resort to physical attack, many people. Because the last time he fired warning shots, I said to Christ, nothing happened to us. He was left off the hook. He admitted that he didn't fire the warning shot. And no arrest was effected. That is what has created this impunity of this large proportion. Every Ghanaian life matters. Every Ghanaian life matters. The police, the last time allegedly when our Kumtin son was shot, we saw the response of the police. Was our Kumtin son life more important than the innocent Ghanaian who was shot at? The police must be up and doing. They must respect the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. They must know that they are not here to do the bidding of a political party. They are here to do the bidding of the Constitution. If you cannot arrest somebody who has shot an innocent Ghanaian at your presence, then what can you do? What can you do?
So that is the last speaking. Also, we have some eyewitnesses here on the ground. Man, here to say. Again, put in the course.
Taxi driver was
That's okay. I thought Eric was making a point there, but troubling developments coming from that area, the Ojupon Hine Behe polling station. This is in the Ewutu Senya West constituency. That is Hawakumsin's constituency. East, I beg your pardon. Ewutu Senya East. Sorry that I mixed up with the East and the West. Yeah. So Ewutu Senya East constituency, and the gentleman in question was telling our reporter on the ground that someone fired gunshots at somebody, and we will do our independent checks in relation to that. But clearly is a troubling development if it is proven to be true, that is indeed what happened in that area. And there was another lady who was seemingly corroborating that particular story. Worrying development again.
I was in that constituency last 4 years by this time. We had similar stories about gunshots and people being wounded as a result. The initial reports were that they were even death, but of course that turned out not to be the case. So indeed, but if the accounts of the NDC communications officer is anything to go by, then I think that will be problematic, because he mentioned that it happened in the food. Because now they feel that the gentleman did what he did with impunity and is being allowed to leave. Ostensibly probably go somewhere else and engage in some of these activities. So yes, it's good that this is on national television. It's good that the people in charge of our security are listening, and it's good that an action definitely is taken to ensure that there are no reprisal attacks in that regard.
And Dr. Bonner, I mean, another situation of gunshots.
It's sad. It's sad because then some of these hoodlums, they do this with impunity, believing that they wield some power, you know, either imaginary or political power. But even that, I don't see how they would go free, because then we know that all prosecutions would start and they are done on behalf of the Attorney General. You know, the guy who shot somebody in the name of national security in Odododio, he was initially apprehended, 2020. I don't know how far that thing goes.
How it ended, yes.
And so mine is that the AG can decide to acquiesce or sleep, and some time ago, he only gave warning shots and came out bragging that he did it. This time around, he gave warning shot, allegedly, and aimed and shot someone, and the person is injured. If such persons are not punished, then you see what happens is that there will be reprisal attacks.
And it further emboldens them too.
Yes, and it emboldens criminals like him. Because then if I know that if you shoot me, I won't get the necessary remedy or redress, then I will also arm myself. So you pull your gun, I will shoot you first. So you have the Moses law, an eye for an eye, which shouldn't be the situation we should find ourselves. The law must equally apply. But unfortunately, it is almost as if once you wield political power, you can do anything at all you want under the sun in Ghana, and nobody can challenge you. Which is very bad, because then I'm saying now we have almost 2 hours for polls to close.
It's just some 5 minutes.
And already
the top of the hour
people are carrying guns and shooting. What happens if it is 5 and it goes to 6, 7, and someone feels that I'm losing? They've counted certain polling centers. This place is not my stronghold, or it is my stronghold, but the people have decided not to vote for me. They are counting, and they've counted almost half of the ballots, and it looks like I'm losing. But until they finish counting, I cannot be declared a loser. What happens? The people, I think that our way out of this, the only way out of this, is for the people to resist. To resist by any means necessary. To resist anybody who comes there. I think resistance is embedded in our constitution. Any means necessary. Any means necessary.
As long as it's legal.
Yes. Legal in our law, self-preservation is important. So the law says that even if I have an unlicensed weapon and you pulled your gun and you have a licensed weapon and I shot you in self-defense, we'll leave it to the judge or the court to decide whether whether I defended myself legitimately. So I am saying that looking at what is going on, people should resist.
In 1 minute. Yeah. In 1 minute.
People should resist legitimately by any means necessary, so that at the end of the day, let's build a society where you see the Americans, why everybody is allowed to use a weapon, so that when the military in America cannot do any nonsense, because the people have more weapons than the American military. Right. So let's resist with everything we have as much as possible. That way, if we are successful, politicians going forward would know that no amount of force can cow the people of this country.
Okay, and Ibrahim, just a quick one from you.
Yes.
1 minute too.
Oh no, of course. The police statement, of course, on the conversation we've just had, and that is the police arrest 4 persons in connection with a shooting incident at Nampala in the northern region. And it says the Ghana Police Service...
That's the Tolon.
Yeah, the Tolon one we just talked about. So the Ghana Police Service has this afternoon arrested 4 persons, namely Majid Isa, Fodi Asiage, Kamara, Yakubu Semaila, and Alhaji Bashiru Muhammad in connection with the shooting incident at Nampala in the northern region, which led to the death of 1 person and the injury of another. The injured victim is currently receiving medical care, while the body of the deceased is taken to the morgue for preservation and autopsy. The suspects are currently in custody and assisting the police investigation. That's from the Ghana Police Service, and pictures of the 4 suspects are reproduced here.
Okay, and that's in relation to the Tolon case that we brought to you earlier. Very worrying developments there, and this is where myself, Nadi Tete, and Ibrahim Alasan will knock off and make way for our colleagues Lantam Papanko and Natalie Fort to take over from the coverage. And it's a continuous coverage of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections across the country. We are live on GH1 television and also on Star 103.5 FM. Can you know that Adam Bonar, Dr. Adam Bonar, will still be here when our colleagues take over from us. Stay tuned in. We are live on Star, GH1 television.